Hi friends, this is Amy from This Reusable Life. Today I'm going to show you how to take your old yoga pants that you're not going to wear anymore and turn them into toddler leggings. So now what I have here are 3 different pairs of lounge pants that were given to me from somebody in my Communities Buy Nothing group. They're no longer going to use them for their intended purpose. They have some signs of wear and tear and just, lounging a lot. And they're not going to be used anymore. So I'm going to do my best to take the good parts of them and make them into something that's usable and something that's actually needed. So a few tips when you are choosing some garments to use for making other clothes out of. I think that looking for garments that were originally a higher end is always good because they're going to wear better. So I really like these because these are from Land's End, and they definitely look like they have been loved and worn, but they look like the fabric is still in really good shape. There's not a lot of wearing. There's a little bit of fading, but that's okay. So I think these pants are a really good option for making some kids pants out of, and I might be able to get a couple out of that. We'll have to see. The next option that I have here, this is more of like a I don't know, running pant, yoga pant, more of a polyester feel of the fabric. And so I think these can still be used. I'll say that there is some pilling and stuff, especially, in areas that get a lot of wear, but I think there's still enough good fabric that I'll be able to still get at least one pair of leggings out of this one. And then I think this one is very similar as well. It has some wear and tear, but I think there's still going to be some good parts, especially along the outer edges, that we'll be able to use. A few tips when you're looking for things to reuse. Getting things in bigger sizes is always great because you have more fabric to work with. And then also when I make the pants, I am going to try to use the finished parts of these pants as much as I can to avoid having to redo hems, or I might even be able to reuse the waistbands on some of these. I'm not sure if that will work out for these, but I've done that in the past. So a few tips and things to look for when you are choosing which items you're going to repurpose. So what I've already done is I have a pattern. This is called the Celeste Legging. It's a free pattern from peanutpattern.com. I can give you a link so you can get to this pattern. What I've done is I've printed out the pattern in the specific size that I need, which is a 3-year-old size. I have glued it together, lined it up, glued it, and then I like to reinforce the seams with tape. I usually use clear mailing tape, but I couldn't find that. Masking tape is going to work just fine. My printer apparently is running out of colored ink, so the line wasn't showing up too well, so I just traced it over with a permanent marker so it would be easier for you to see. Definitely not something that you would normally have to do if your printer is working appropriately. So now I'm just going to take a few minutes and quickly cut this out, and then I'll show you the next step. So now I have my 2 pieces in my pattern. Just take that piece off where it was overlapping. So I have my pant legs here, so Celeste legging, and then I have the standard waistband option. This one had 2 options for waistband, one that was fold over and one that was a non-fold over waistband, and I'm just going to choose the standard waistband option. So now I have one of the pairs of pants. I've chosen which one I'm going to work with. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut off each leg roughly the size that I need for my pattern, and then I'm going to cut up the middle seam, the inside leg seam on each of the pant legs, and then I will show you what I'm going to do after that. So now that I have my 2 pant legs cut up one seam, I'm going to lay them on top of each other so that this seam is lined up And when I cut the pattern out, the seam will be lined up on both sides. So it's important that we're going to do right sides together. So making sure my seams, this is the outside, that's the right side of that seam. So I'm going to put the right side of the other seam down on top of it. And I'm going to line up these two seams right down the middle. I'm going to pin this fabric together in a few places just to keep it together and keep it from sliding around. So I also want to be sure to keep this hem at the very same place, line it up exactly on both pairs of pants. So I'm going to have to readjust some of my pins to make sure that I'm getting that straight as well. Some fabric will be easier to work with than others. This fabric is a little slippery and a little stretchy, so it just might be a little bit harder than some things that are more of a cotton feel. That's okay, we will still work with what we have. Next, I'm going to put my pattern down, and since I have both of these on top of each other and their right sides are together, then I will automatically get a right leg and a left leg. If you don't have your fabric right sides together, you'll get two right legs or two left legs. So what I'm going to try to do now, or what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to line up the bottom of my pattern with the hem that is part of the pants. And I'm going to do my best to put that seam right up the middle of the pant so it will appear on the outside of the leg. And if it's not right in the middle, that's okay. As long as you have both of your pairs of pant legs lined up on that seam, then the seam will be on the same place on each leg. So if it's a little bit off center, it will just look like an artistic decision and you decided to put it there. So don't worry if it's not completely in the middle, but we do want to try to get this hem straight. Is just cut this pattern out from both pieces of fabric. When you have stretchy fabric, you want to be sure that you're not pulling on it when you're cutting out your pattern so it doesn't distort the shape. So do the best you can to not pull it and cut around the pattern. And now I'm going to follow the instructions that came with the pattern in the tutorial, and I am going to pin and sew up the seams of both legs and then sew the two legs together. So I'll show you what I'm doing, but you can also follow what's on that pattern. Now I'm gonna set up my sewing machine and sew these two outside, actually it's the inside seams. So now I'm gonna sew these two legs up, the inside seam of these two legs. I'm gonna use the knit overcast stitch, which is number 7 on my machine. It might be a little bit different on yours. This is what's recommended in the pattern. And just remember when you're sewing to take your pins out and don't sew over them so you don't risk breaking your needle. you can see I have sewn up the inside seam on both of my pant legs, and now what I'm going to do is cut the excess off of these seams without cutting into the actual stitches. And then I'm going to turn one right side out, put it inside the other as the pattern instructs to do, and then I'm going to pin at the crotch and sew up the crotch. When I'm reusing an old pair of pants, I often try to reuse the waistband, and I'll try to do a video where I show you how exactly I do that. But for this one, I didn't love the waistband and I thought it was going to be a little bit loose for a toddler legging. So what I've done is I've just cut the waistband from the pattern from the top of the pants that I didn't use before, and I pinned it and I sewed it and cut off the excess like the pattern said to do. And now I'm going to attach it to the pants, again, as the instructions in the pattern say to do. And there we have it, our finished pair of toddler leggings made from an old pair of yoga pants that were not going to be used anymore. If you enjoyed this video about creative reuse sewing, you can follow me on Instagram at this.reusablelife to see what new sewing, creative reuse, and repurposing projects I'm working on. Please subscribe to my channel for more creative reuse videos.